Welcome to No Todo Se Cura con Vix, your go-to destination for Latinas getting real with their healing journey. We are so thrilled to have you here with us today. First off, we want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all our listeners. Your support, your loyalty mean the world to us. Without you, none of this would even be possible. We also want to take a moment to express how much your support matters. Every download, share, and like helps us grow and reach more people who might benefit from our content. So, if you enjoy what you hear today, I encourage you to hit that download button and share our episodes with your friends, your family, and anyone who you think might enjoy them. Your actions truly make a difference in helping us expand our podcast family. So once again, thank you for being a part of our journey with us. Let's continue to learn, grow, and explore together. Now, let's jump right into today's episode.
I am Jessie.
I am Maggie.
I am Heidi.
Yes, and we're so excited to have you again listening to us. Thank you for all of your support, downloads, and thank you all for donating and getting us a cup of coffee. Like we said before, it's not so much about coffee. It's really the behind the scene, behind the door cost that it takes to be able to be here bi-weekly and provide all of these resources and information for our community and to continue to do this podcast. So thank you so much for all who have supported us. And those who are thinking about doing it, go ahead. Hasta 5 pesos. It's okay.
Support our show, guys. Support it.
We'll see. Yes. Yes. So let's dive into this topic because I think a lot of us, first gen, can really relate to it. And this is called Forever Personal Assistance, Navigating First Gen Duties.
Oh, shit. I'm going to get in trouble on this one.
Yep. Yes. We are. So I'm going to kind of create a disclaimer before we start. Number one, we love our parents. And once again, I don't know how they did it. The idea of leaving your country where you have all of your families, your support system, you know your country, you understand the language, to leave everything behind and go to a different country where you have nada. Okay? You have to start all over financially in every aspect and not know the language and try to understand the culture while also raising kids. God bless them.
Amen.
I wouldn't be able to do it.
I wouldn't be able to do it.
Me
God
neither.
bless them. They decided that they were going to sacrifice all of their entire life and give up everything that they had in our case in DR to make sure that we had a better life, that we had better opportunities. And that's just so much strength and so much love. And I want to take a moment to thank our parents for doing that, for being very, selfless and saying, I'm going to do this for the sake of my family. Yeah. So when we talk about these experiences about being first generation and the duties that it comes with, there is moments of frustration, there's moments of laughter, but we also kind of understand where they're coming from. We want to honor all of their sacrifice. This is a country where not only it's like I've always said, it's more than a language barrier. It's also a different culture, different way of doing things. And let's not get it wrong too. Like our parents deal with a lot of discrimination, racism. Okay. Just for the fact that they don't speak the language or they don't look white. Right. So immigrants get treated very differently. And I think we all have experienced that and seen it. So when we have these first gen duties, I think it represents more of oh, my mother or my father doesn't speak English. There's just so much more to it. The cycle of racism, the cycle of oppression, really shows up in these moments. So we are going to have a topic about this because we can understand where they're coming from, but let's keep it real. It takes a toll out of us. It takes a lot of energy, patience, time. That can create at times frustration. At times it can create moments of like, coño, do it yourself.
Yeah.
More often than I would like to admit.
Yes, because right, we have our own responsibilities. We have our children, we have our husbands, we have our businesses, our jobs. In addition to that, as your parents start aging, they become sort of like part of your parenting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Today is a good topic, and I'm going to say this. I have an aunt that when she wants to tell you something about yourself, she sits you down and she goes, mira, lo que yo te voy a decir, te lo digo con amor.
Oh,
So that's this topic.
God.
What we're going to share, we're going to do it con amor. Viene del corazón. No es nada malo. And when she says that, you're like, oh shit, this is not going to be good. It's going to be the total opposite of what you
Yes.
just said.
You say that and it's so familiar.
Yo no te puedo decir nada, y por eso que yo no digo nada.
Pero te lo dice como quiera. Bueno, that was beautiful. Lo que vamos a decir, lo vamos a decir con amor. No es para, we're not putting anybody down. As a matter of fact, if anything, we gained a lot of strength, a lot of resilience. We learned so much from this experience. Let me tell you, most of my jobs I got is because of this experience. So,
Sí.
yeah, I'm serious. So
That's true. Yo vi un Instagram video of like a first gen being like, everything that you do for your parents, you can actually put on a resume.
hell yeah.
She's like personal assistant, accountant, customer service rep, everything.
Motivation speaker. Oh my gosh, it's such a great topic. And again, I'm so happy we are, communicating this because I'm in, just like we are. I know there's a lot of people that relate to this just in our family alone. And it's not only parents, it could be grandparents, it could be aunts and uncles, it can be anybody, a stranger in the streets, because it's part already who we are as people. And we're like trained almost to be this way because it just doesn't go away. I see a stranger in the streets that doesn't know the language and I'm already in there. Like, ¿qué te necesita? They already know that I'm Dominican for some reason. They're like, tú sabes hablar español? Mira, ¿dónde queda esto? Right away. And I'm like, I gotta help this person. This could be my uncle. This could be my aunt. Like, whatever. So, yeah, let's dive in.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In New York City, you always find someone that is like, oh my God, they remind me of my mom. They remind me of my dad. I got to help them. Aunque tú no quieras, adentro, you're like, coño. But you
you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see yourself in that situation, you're just like, fuck.
Because it's not going to be a simple help. This is going to be, it's a rabbit hole. That's it. You're trapped.
Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, and if it's not like a quick thing, you're that person. Like, let's say if you're like at a doctor or something, you're that person. Like you just become their person and you don't even know this person. You're doing it just because of the guilt, because you're like, damn it, that could be my mother. Why didn't I just walk away?
Yeah. Tú le llenas el formulario entero a esa persona. You have all their information. Lléname lo que yo no entiendo, toma. Señora, ¿cuál es su apellido? ¿A dónde usted vive?
That is so true. Yeah. That's so true. So, let's talk a little bit about those experiences, because I think that nowadays, it's gotten easier, because a lot of the places where my parents go, like when they go see their doctors, there's a translator or there's someone that speaks Spanish, right? So it has become a little bit easier. But when I was growing up, late 70s, early 80s, eso no existía. There was no translator. And it was mostly everyone at the hospital, at work, wherever we went, like any business, or how do you call those? Like
facilities, right?
Facilities and like government buildings and stuff like that. It was all people that spoke English. There wasn't a lot of Latinos. And I remember at the youngest at 7, 8, 9, translating for my mom at that age, trying to figure out how to maneuver 2 languages.
Yeah.
And let me remind you, my first language is Spanish because my mother and my dad taught me Spanish. I learned English when I went to kindergarten. That's where I learned English. So I just learned English if I was 8. I myself was just learning English to translate to my mom, the pharmacy, doctor's appointments, wherever, calling up places to schedule appointments, translating even in my parent teachers conference. Even in my teacher, yes.
That's the best though. Your teacher's like, she's struggling. You're like, dice que yo soy una de las mejores estudiantes.
Yes. And then cuando llegaban la carta, leme esto, ¿qué es lo que esto dice? And there was like, I was a little girl, so there were certain words I didn't even understand in English what that meant. ¿Y cómo es que tú no sabes eso? And ¿cómo te enseñan eso? I'm in first grade.
Yeah. Pues ella no sabe. Ella no sabe humillando a uno. Like,
in first grade was that you learn how to read.
Yeah. Literally.
Yes. And so we had to translate. We had to make phone calls. We had to read letters. We had to translate, even when there were moments that we didn't understand what was going on. Even when there were moments like how inappropriate was to expect my school, right? PS 84. For me to translate for my teacher and my mom. Why couldn't there be someone to translate for my mom?
Yeah.
But I didn't have to be part of that. Right?
Yeah.
And there's just been even doctors, things that my mom would talk about her health and stuff. And I was young that I had to know and translate.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced that? What are your thoughts?
Yes. I was a teenager, and that was when Mama used to go to Ryan Center. You guys remember Ryan Center?
Oh,
what
yeah.
was
I still think it's still there.
Street? Yes, it's still
97th
there.
Street.
97th Street. And I had to go and I had to translate one of her doctor's appointment with the gynecologist. It was just embarrassing. I was like, why is this what I am doing right now? Like, it's weird, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
You have to help your parents. Like,
ven conmigo a este appointment que yo no voy a entender. Yo necesito que tú
mira,
me
till this
expliques.
day, yo tengo una cita with my aunt because she's like, yo necesito a alguien que me ponga a YouTube because she just got a new TV. So she needs the YouTube app. And then she's like, I want to start doing exercise. So yo tengo un día, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go on this Friday. I'm going to download that app and I'm going to teach you how to use YouTube. Okay. So that you can do your workouts, right? Today, when I'm done with this, my parents are here. I have to go down to the basement with my father to teach him how to use the new technology to do laundry. Right?
Oh,
so that's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So it never ends. Like, it starts when you're young, but it keeps going and going and going. And it gets harder because now we have technology and now we have to translate and show them how to use it. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I experienced the same thing, especially with those apps. And you have to go like step by step. And it's okay. I mean, my daughter looks at me now when I ask her for things and ella me mira con esa carota and I'm like, oh shit, payback is a bitch. But I at least know the language. But my parents, it's very difficult for them because of the language barrier. And then when they don't understand something, just the complexity of like anything legal or medical or technology based, it's like they go into this frozen space, like where they feel like they cannot do these things. And it's hard for them to like process a lot of things. And then uno se frustra. Like I get so angry because I'm like, I already explained this to you. Like, why do I have to go through this all over again? Oh my God. Mira, esto lo dice en español, te lo puse en español para que tú
Yes,
entiendas.
y todavía.
Yeah.
Yeah, todavía.
Yeah, they don't understand. Yeah. And then you experience like when they're here, at least when my parents come, they'd have all these like doctor's appointment and you have to make all the doctor's appointment and they like hunt you down until you make all of them. Right.
Yeah.
And then it's about keeping track. Like I'm like, okay, like I told my mom, cause she has like, a million of them. I'm like, let's take them out so we can put them in the calendar. So now it's like, I'm keeping track of my schedule, of the schedule, of my son, and now my parents too. So, so yeah, definitely. It's, I say this with love, but sometimes it does feel a little bit, like a burden.
But I had to sit down and I had to say, vamos a tener un cursillo de WhatsApp. And I had to literally sit down and show them the app. Y mira, tú haces esto cuando tú quieres mandar un mensaje de voz. Tú haces esto cuando tú quieres mandar una foto. And it's like, oh my God, like I'm teaching a 5-year-old. And then my mom, she barely has, like my mom is a cleaning freak. So her fingers, right? Like it doesn't register when she presses. No, seriously. She's like, ay, no, cuando yo me saco la huella, siempre hay un problema porque yo uso mucho producto limpiando y parece que
mucho cloro.
Y no tengo ADN.
The fingerprint, sí.
So it's even harder for her with the phone. It just doesn't, like, she either presses too hard or presses too
My mom does it
light.
that hard.
So it's also kind of like showing her how to use the phone and how to press buttons while also teaching her the app.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like, with our parents, mine and Jesse, sometimes they're like stuck in their ways, right? Which makes the whole task of being a personal assistant a little bit harder, right? So like when they go to DRA, I paid their credit cards, right? So I've been trying to convince them like, yo, just put your credit card information and we can pay them and they just automatically would take it from your account. Because this is what we do. My aunt has their bank card. She goes to the bank, withdraws money, takes out the credit card money, calls me. I got to drive to Manhattan to pick it up. And the rest of the money, she goes to this place and she sends it to them. It is just crazy shit. There is such an easier way of doing this and they refuse to do. And they're just like, we cannot put our credit card, our bank account information on the internet. A los viejitos le están robando todo. I'm like, so it's okay to get, my shit stolen. I'm like, that's not going to happen to you. It's not going to happen to you. Yeah. So every month I have to go make that trip to pick up that money, to figure out, go into my bank, to put the money in my bank, to come home to make payments.
Maya de Dios te bendiga.
Yeah, that's a lot on a person. That's a lot on anybody. Like to have to, and like you said, the hardest part is they're just so like used to their ways and they're not open to receiving any criticism. And there's got to be the aspect of respect. And then the guilt trip. Like, se hacen enemigos uno si uno no lo hace como ellos dicen, And then it's a constant harassment. Me lo hiciste. It's 9:00. I'm at work. Can I call you back? I'm not I cannot do this right now. I cannot talk about this right now. So it's that aspect, and I understand, I understand that they have their ways and they need their help, but at the same time, it's very like stressful navigating these things with them, because a lot of it could be, one, avoided, two, they can learn to do certain things if they're open to it, and three, now when you call customer service, they say for Spanish, press 1, and they can certainly do it. And no, like I had to learn to set very strong boundaries, and had to like kind of tiptoe on how I was going to approach those boundaries with them without them getting offended. And it was hard showing them that you cannot call me for every little question and rely on me for every little thing. There is ways for you to do this on your own, respectfully, because all I'm doing is enabling you. All I'm doing is making things worse. And I don't want you to rely on me either. Just like I don't want my children to rely on me all the time. Like, figure it out sometimes. Build the strength to figure it out, for them to really build the strength to handle some of their own things. Making sure that I'm not enabling them to feel like I should do everything for them. And I felt bad having to do that. But I've taught my parents a lot on how to respect, when I am not available, when I cannot do certain things, and teach them also that they have the capability of doing these things.
Yeah, I think this is like so interesting that you're talking about boundaries, right? Because I think it is important for us to set boundaries in our relationships. But I think that for first gen, for most, I'm not saying all, but for most of us, and maybe you guys can relate to this, is there's a really mixed emotions about it, because it's, once again, is this respect and honor of all the hard work that they went through and did for us. And so there's this feeling of like, my God, they sacrificed so much, and here they are asking me to call for a doctor's appointment, and I feel so freaking upset, right? And they did so much for me. So it's that ongoing guilt that sometimes makes it so hard to set the boundaries, that you end up being sort of like in a codependency relationship with your parents, because yes, because it's also like my parents are here, right? So I'm the one that calls the cabs so they can go to their doctor's appointment. It's a very easy process that I know, especially my father, is able to do. But they solely rely on us because, like I said, it's more, in our case, I believe, it's more than just a language barrier. It's also like, you go ahead and make this phone call. You go ahead and call these people. Because I think it has a lot to do, as what we were talking about, the racism, that it's, if you think about it, like some of our parents, they get treated poorly. Yeah. I see it with my own eyes. Like, I was on the bus the other day and I saw this little old man that is just like my father. He looks just like my father, and he's Dominican. And he was asking for directions, and the bus driver was really like ignoring him and not really like helping him, right? And they get treated that way. And they know they do. And I think we are much more assertive and we feel more confident. So that's the reason why they're like, no, you go ahead and make the phone call. Because I know that it has a lot to do with that. I don't think that they're not smart enough or they can't do it. I think that if they have no other way, they'll figure it out.
Absolutely.
But then that's what happens. That's the piece that makes it so complicated for us, that my son, like when I ask him about computer and stuff, my youngest, he'll be like, oh, Mom, this and this. And then he's like, Mom, you could do this. Okay, I'm going to show you, but you could do this. He knows, right? Like, it's a completely different relationship. Whereas for me, I'm like, I'm not only thinking about, can they do it? But I'm also thinking about, how do my parents get treated when they go to their doctor's appointment? How do my parents get treated when they get on the bus and they don't know where to go? And that's the piece that makes it a little bit much more challenging to set those boundaries.
Yes, that emotional piece there. And I don't even think it's not is I wouldn't describe it as guilt, like, oh, I feel guilty, I have to do this. It's more like, um that emotional piece, and that's why when you see people that remind you of your parents, you want to help them. If you see someone that reminds you of your parent getting mistreated, it makes you angry.
Yeah, and there's not enough resources for them to receive like guidance on like I know they came to this country with not enough support, right? So for them to learn like their rights and then they're being talked to a certain way and they don't know how to defend themselves. They know, okay, at least we have the language. We have some of the knowledge of, certain laws and stuff like that. We can help them. So it's very difficult and challenging to always be the person to protect your parents and protect your loved ones and help them out. And then they also have, their ways of being también. So when you're trying to help them, y ellos te miran a ti, and then they get mad at you. You're just the messenger. You don't agree with none of it either. You're just a messenger. And sometimes it's very difficult, having to, because we're in both worlds. We're living in both worlds and really embracing who we are as Dominicans and embracing that we're also American and that we're part of both places. But it's very difficult for our parents to always try to figure out. And I know that it's difficult for them to always ask us for help too. Ahora tengo que yo esperar que Heidi me dé esta carta o me explique esto, it's hard. But it's also difficult for us. We're voicing just basically how we always have to kind of like, there is some type of guilt there because we feel bad when we don't want to do it. I feel terrible when I say no. Figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And so even like, alguna vez, it's not even your parents. Alguna vez they offer your services to their other family members.
Yes, that has happened to me.
Jesse,
That has happened to me.
Jesse te puede hacer ese appointment, o Jesse te va a leer esa carta, or
Yes,
offering your services to other. And they're not doing it in a malicious way. They're doing it sort of like a community thing. Like, this is the person that you can reach out to, and so they can help you. They can call, they can do this. But that is also very draining for one person in a circle, in a community, to do all of those things: finances, doctor's appointments, customer service, personal assistant, to do all those things, not only to your parents, but your uncles, your aunt. Eso es mucho. Eso es mucho for one person. It's a lot of energy, right? So it is important to set those boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah.
My challenge is, how do you do it, right? Like what I did the last time they were here is like, vámonos a sentar. You guys are going to learn how to use WhatsApp, because this is what we're going to use. Ya la tarjeta de llamada no se usan.
Do they even sell those anymore?
I hope not. Them shits were a headache because you had to call the number and put those pins.
Yes.
And put the pin in, yeah.
So we taught them how to do that and how to use it, and it works well. Last time that they came, my mom got called for jury duty. Yes. Ay, Dios mío, ya tú te imaginas. And then I called her because they were asking for her doctor to write a letter saying why she couldn't do it. And I'm like, mami, tú puedes hacer esta llamada porque tú puedes hablar español. Yo voy a estar aquí al lado de ti y tú vas a pedir lo que tú necesitas y yo te voy a recordar. And that's what we did. That's how I kind of like set the boundaries, where it's not a harsh no, but you're going to help me do this.
Yeah, because you want to give them the strength to like advocate for themselves too, because you're not always there. It's like what we want for our kids too. Advocate for yourself. So learn to build that strength. And let me tell you, like, I was just in DR, this past summer, and my parent was like, now you have to do that, ¿cómo que say the immigration thing, like online? Ay, the e-ticket, ay, Dios mío. So, of course.
Yeah, I just
Let me tell you, había a stranger there. Ven, Heidi, ayúdalo. Ayuda a este señor a hacer e-ticket. And I'm like, yo, I have to get on my plane. I have to get on my plane. Like, I cannot. Automatically, I had to do that. Pero, ¿cómo va a ser este pobre señor? Ven, ayúdalo, por favor. ¿Cómo tú lo vas a dejar? Señor, ay, por favor, que no tengo a nadie. Y yo tuve que hacer e-ticket corriendo, desesperada. You know, like how you just
say this. Remember, I think it was a Carlos episode that we had that I spoke about, like, my aunt when we, like, picked her up from DR and, like, she had this, complete stranger with her. Yo, my parents came last week, so Will is like, all right. I go, Will, since you're off, you're gonna go get them. He's like, all right, cool. He comes back and he goes, what is up with your family picking up strangers at the airport? Your parents did it to me.
No.
A person.
No.
They were like, mira que si tú lo puedes llevar. He goes, why do they pick up people they don't know?
Yeah, it's insane. It is insane. And they do it like you're outside and they know that you speak Spanish. You're going to be their person. You're going to be their person. It's just like that guy the old man that I was saying in the bus. I saw that the bus driver was just so ignoring him, right? Just completely ignoring him. So I'm looking at him and I'm like, oh my God, that can be my father. And he was also Dominican. So I had to be like, mire, usted se sale en esta parada, whatever. Like I started teaching him what to do. And the whole community got involved in the bus because there were Dominican ladies there. Mire, don, pero llévese de ella. Salga cuando ella salga. And I'm like, I leave before his stop. I cannot take him there. I can give him directions, but I'm not going to his doctor's appointment. Right?
Pero Jessie, explain what you said when the lady was like, when she was like, when you feel it. That was get off.
Say that.
Because that's how they like communicate, and you're like, this could be my parent.
So it makes no sense. I'm gonna make a long story very short, but I saw it when he got ignored by the bus driver because I was already sitting down when he came inside the bus. And there was this older Dominican lady, which could be my mom, sitting in front of me. And she goes, ¿Pa dónde usted va? So he shows her the doctor's appointment paper. Mire aquí. And she's like, ay, se me quedaron los lentes. Yo no veo nada. Yo no lo puedo ayudar. So there's another lady in front of me who's around my age. And she looks at the paper and she tells them, oh, this is what it says. But neither of them know where to go. So she tells him, mire, lo que usted va a hacer es, usted se sienta aquí y usted coge esta guagua. Y cuando usted tenga el presentimiento que usted llegó, usted se sale. Y si no hay dirección, usted coge un taxi. Oh my God, that is the worst advice ever. That's why I had to intervene.
Puede llegar en Boston. Like, where the hell is he supposed to go? I'm sure.
No, mira ahí, oh, okay, And then she said que si usted quiere, cuando la gente se monte, usted le pregunta. Que debe haber uno que sepa. And I'm like, no, he looked like in his 70s. So I start helping him. And then, Evito comenzó a enamorarme.
Tú ves, ya, that was your guy for the whole freaking ride. That was it.
Thank God I got off before him. But it's just, that is what happens in our community. That is what happens with the experience of being first gen, right? In that moment, like I was telling my husband, he didn't even have a cell phone. He could have Googled it, right? Just like I did. I didn't know. I heard the address. I put it on my phone and my phone told me where to get off. But it's also the lack, not only of language, the lack of technology.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Something very similar that Maggie said about her aunt. Like, my parent was like dealing with back pain. And I was like, just look up it on YouTube, just easy stretch for back pain. Something that simple, which is what I do automatically. All of a sudden, a week later, yo me siento tan bien de que comencé a hacer su ejercicio. Yo voy a comenzar a hacer eso todos los días. Eso me ha ayudado bastante. But I'm like, this was like the easiest thing ever. Just YouTube. Like, I would have done that right away. So it's like just giving them the confidence to do these things too, Because I get so happy when they're able to do certain things on their own. You see the excitement. Like, oh, yo pude hacer esto, yo me metí, mira qué bien, ya yo sé hacer esto, yo soy un experto.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. So, let's talk about a little bit about how do we set boundaries moving forward, or what are your thoughts about how to handle the situation, right? Because there's a lot of it's just not, let's just set boundaries. There's just like so much, right, of that happens. There's a lot of mixed emotions, experiences. So before we wrapped up, like, can you kind of like share your experience? Like, what are your thoughts, and what do you do, or what are you planning to do to make this process a little bit easier for both you and your parent?
I would literally, like what I've been doing, something very similar to you, Jessie, is giving them the confidence, showing them that I'm right there, and telling them, they have Spanish representatives. Also showing them, like, you can look up a lot of things. So if you're unsure, I said, ma'am, I speak English, and I still Google, or I find ways to even find the answers in I told them about chat GPT, like certain things that they can do to kind of like help them, and tell them that I don't always have the answer either. I have to look up a lot of the things that they don't know either, because I'm not a doctor and I'm not a freaking lawyer. When there's like legal things that come up, or like you said, jury duty, I have to figure it out. So figuring out a way and let them know that they have the confidence, and also letting them know that I'm not always available to help them, I with love, and like, I try to be very patient. Moving forward, I don't get as angry as I used to get when they would ask me for things, and showing them that I love them, but I kind of have to let them know that they also have to build the strength to figure things out. I don't want to hold their hand through life, even though I would like to. I don't have the bandwidth for it, because I don't have it for my kid either. So just showing them that they're loved and that they're not alone. And if something does happen, I'm there to back them up.
Yeah. I think that with me, I haven't really set a lot of boundaries when it comes to that. I tend to just, help them, I guess, because, I do feel bad, but definitely I will put the boundaries. I'm going to tell them, before you guys go to DR, we are putting your bank account information into your credit cards, because I cannot continue to be making these trips. It's too hard, So yeah, definitely for that. And I remember, I think I told Jessie, I was like, I think that this year I'm going to work on getting an email for them, even though they don't like manage it. So like things like their flight and stuff like that, it can all be in one place, because also when you have like more than one kid, one does this, one does that, sometimes things can be, all over. So yeah, trying to make it simple for them.
And everybody can have that email, and they can work through that email, and you just be able to look at everything together, but separately.
I see, because yeah, sometimes I just like, my parents have una cajita in the closet in my house with a whole bunch of papers, and I had to fill out something about like Medicare or something. I don't even know what it was. Y que sí, que lo busque ahí, en la cajita está ahí. Y I'm like, pero que no está, no Mira, I have to go onto Google to find things, and they're like, look for a ride. Búscalo bien en la cajita. And I'm like, esa cajita no tiene nada, because they just have a whole bunch of papers there in la cajita.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's challenging for first gen, and I think this is something that many of us struggle with. It's an ongoing conflict, right? Like trying to help them do their own things and not worry about supporting them and helping them, but also there's the fear, the guilt. There's just so much happening, and so I think it's pretty much. I don't see for many of us like first gen being like, you figure it out, it's on your own. Like that's not us. That's not how we were raised either. But learning how to create balance, I think it's a process. It's an ongoing process, and it's just learning how to do things differently. Like, yes, they sacrificed a lot for you. They took care of you, but you know, that was one of their responsibilities also as parents. And also they did this so that you can have a better way. So sometimes your better way, they're not going to understand because it's a different world for them. So you might have to introduce them to that. Like many times my mom won't understand about self-care, but I'll have the little conversations about it, right? I don't expect her to book a yoga class for the remaining of her life, but you know, being able to introduce them to our new world without being afraid, I think it helps to have a little balance.
Totally.
You know?
I totally agree. And it's what I do with my mom too. Like I constantly tell her, you know, that you can do this. You know, maybe if you try doing this instead of that, it can make your life easier. And I can see, I mean, the great thing about at least my mom, there's no resistance. She's able, even though she may be like, what? She would at least try it. And I give her credit for that. And, you know, and I don't struggle as much with the first gen thing where it's like all the appointments, all these things that other people do. But at the same time, there's certain things that she can definitely learn to do differently and on her own, because she still carries a lot of these traditional behaviors, thinking that it's okay to be so codependent. But at the same time, I've also enabled a lot of it too. So I do take responsibilities for thinking that's going to make me a good girl, and that's going to make me the perfect child to my mom, you know? Yeah. So I had to learn a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is like, we can continue to like, I feel like there could be part 2, part 3 of this topic because there's just so much that comes up, right? Absolutely. And we would love to hear from you. What is your experience? Are you a first gen and you see yourself also being the personal assistant to your parents? Tell us your experience. What do you think about it? Because we can definitely have a second part about this topic because there's so much to talk about. Like physically, emotionally, mentally, culture, everything. So please share with us your thoughts about this episode and what's your experience as a first gen. We'll love to be able to hear from you. Right, ladies?
Yes, definitely.
And so it's just about being aware, setting boundaries, and remembering that your story is completely different than your parents. You're there to support them, but you can teach them how to support themselves.
Yes. Yes. Much
love. All right. So thank you so much for joining us.
Ciao.